Hello, I hope you all have had a great week of reading. It is currently Wednesday for me, but by the time you all are watching this, it will be Friday, and we will be wrapping up our first week of reading. I don't even remember the last time I updated you guys, but I am currently on page 170, and I'm about to start chapter 17. Look at all those notes. I have found that putting sticky notes in the book on the page with the text that I have thoughts about has actually been really, really helpful. I know that several of you have made the comment that like pausing from your reading to put stuff into your reading log feels a bit disruptive, like it kind of takes you out of the story. If you feel like that's the case for you, then you might want to try using sticky notes. It's also really interesting to go back to some of your notes and actually think about your own thinking. On this page, I wrote life after death, ? On this page, I wrote bias, ! How do you fairly decide who dies? ? Ooh, on this page, I made a note that there was a reference to Macbeth. This page, this note doesn't even have anything on it, and neither does that one. This page has a heart because there was like a romantic moment. It wasn't until page 125 that I learned that there aren't any more states in the United States in this era. This quote says, rituals like a cult? ? This sticky note just says politics. Anyway, we're getting to that point in the week where we're going to be reflecting on our sort of reading habits. I really found myself wanting to put sticky notes in the book as I was reading, and then I could flip back through, sort of revisit my own thoughts, and then put some things down in my reading log. Maybe you do something similar, maybe you do something different, maybe next week you want to try something new. There's not really one right way to do it. So after school today, I went to the bookstore because I always want to go to the bookstore. But I have a prediction that I'm going to finish this book over the weekend, and I thought maybe I would be able to find the sequel so that I could start reading that next. And I got really excited because, as you might have seen already, I found The Toll. And for whatever reason, I really did have it in my brain that The Toll is the second book in the trilogy and Thunderhead is the third book in the trilogy, but that is not correct. This does in fact say book 3, and they did not have book 2. I obviously bought book 3 anyway, because I don't know how to control myself, and because I know I'm going to want to probably read it eventually anyway.
Hey guys, so I finally got my book. This is the one that you guys voted for. It wasn't even close with the rest of the books that I made options, so this was the winner. The title is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. It is a mystery novel, so I'm really excited to read it because I love a good mystery. I actually haven't read a good book in probably at least a year now. Throughout the past year, the only kind of books I've read are like informational text or self-help books. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. It takes place in Ireland. It is about a wedding, a high-profile wedding. The bride is a magazine editor and the groom is a celebrity with his own reality TV show. So it's a pretty big deal. But the night of the rehearsal dinner, someone gets murdered, one of the guests at the wedding. I'm excited to find out what's gonna happen and try to figure out who it is. With that being said, I haven't read a ton so far. I believe I'm on page 32. But I do really like it so far. So the very first chapter starts out with a bang. It's like, okay, the lights go out, it's dark, it's stormy, everyone is at the wedding freaking out, the lights come back on, and then all of a sudden they hear someone scream. So yeah, it starts off really interesting. It definitely catches my attention. Each of the chapters is from a wedding guest perspective. So chapter 2 is from the perspective of the wedding planner. Chapter 3 is the perspective of the best man. And then it just goes on from there. So I'm really interested to see what happens the actual day of the rehearsal dinner. And to try to figure out who the murderer is in the process. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm usually pretty good about figuring out who it is anytime I watch like a murder mystery or read like a mystery novel. So I'm interested to see if I can figure out who it is before I actually figure out who it is. Also, I have a really bad habit of reading the last page of a book before I actually start reading the book, and I remember having this conversation with some of my teacher friends about a year ago, and Miss Nallen, of course, was like, oh, those are the worst kind of people, the people that read the last page before they actually start the novel, and yeah, I'm one of those people. Me. I am going to read you guys my favorite passage so far. What I really like about this book is it is so detailed. I mean, I can actually picture that I'm there. It uses a lot of imagery, vivid language. The entire first chapter deeply describes the setting, and so, I mean, you really can picture what it looks like whenever you're there. And this is my favorite part so far. In the center of everything stands the huge cake. It has appeared whole and perfect before them for most of the day. Its train of sugar, foliage, glittering beneath the lights. But only minutes before the lights went out, the guests gathered around to watch its ceremonial disemboweling. Now the deep red sponge gapes from within. Then, from outside comes a new sound. You might almost mistake it for the wind, but it rises in pitch and volume until it is unmistakable. The guests freeze. They stare at one another. They are suddenly afraid again. More so than they were when the lights went out. They all know what they are hearing. It is the scream of terror. So dramatic, I love it. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think that it'll be good. Bristol, come here. You want to read? Come here.
Hello, it is late on Thursday night, but I wanted to go over my reading log with all of you. So I tracked all of my pages over the week and managed to stay on top of my overall weekly goal. I read a total of 174 pages this week, which is actually 29 pages over my weekly goal. I also started just marking like what page I actually finished on each day just to like keep myself on track. And then earlier today, I actually went through and answered my questions. An interesting structural element to Scythe that I don't think I've actually talked about in any of these videos yet is that the story actually switches back and forth between the regular sort of narration where it talks about like Citra and Rowan and their story, and then these journal entries, because it's actually a requirement of all Scythes that they keep a journal. So I actually learned a lot about the details of setting through the journal entries. And of course, like, everything's connected, so that's been sort of interesting to follow throughout the story. So now we get to the part of our log on the back that I really want us to make sure that we don't forget about, and that is the weekly reading reflection. Question number 1, what reading habits worked well for you this week? So I already talked earlier about using sticky notes in the book to mark particular passages that I thought were important or that I had thoughts about. And then also I talked to several of you this week about reading small sections of your book, like a few pages even at a time, just whenever you get the chance. Especially outside of class time, you don't have to set aside like hours of your evening to read. Also, think about how much reading you would get done if instead of picking up your phone every time you had like a few minutes, you picked up your book instead. Question number 2, did you meet your weekly reading goal for total pages read? I'm going to check yes. If not, what could you do differently to meet your goal next time? How about I tell you some of the ways that students have told me this week that they are keeping track of their thoughts as they're reading. I know several students are using sticky notes kind of how I do, where you're just sort of jotting down any thoughts that you have and marking the page. Some people use a sticky note to write a quick summary of each chapter or section that they read, and then they put that on the page. I know some people are already like jotting down possible topics for their research project that we're going to be doing after this. Some people have already sectioned off how many pages they need to get to meet their daily goal. Some people will put a sticky note wherever they finished reading for that day, whether it was at their goal or not. And then of course people were also sort of marking details having to do with our specific focuses for this week. The next part of the reflection is to summarize your reactions to your book so far. Let me just say that there have been some major turning points in my book. We were going in a certain direction, and then it was like shocking moment after shocking moment, and now we're going in a completely different direction than what I had originally anticipated. I'm firmly at a point in the book where I have to be very careful about how I talk about the story because I want to make sure that I don't spoil it for anybody. Overall, I think things are going to start to get pretty interesting. Last thing, right now, what would you rate this book? So in my mind, a 3-star is like great. Like it's right in the middle, pretty much what I was expecting. I had a good time. 2-star is didn't like it. 1-star is hated it. 4-star is I really liked it, or like I'm on the verge of loving it. And a 5 is like, this is a new all-time favorite book for me. So for now, I think I'm going to give this a pretty solid 4 stars, which is what I had originally predicted. I'm still very intrigued. I'm really enjoying it. I think like the concept of this world and scythes in general is just really interesting. I'm very excited to see how all of this is going to play out. So much so that you guys already know I am anticipating that I will want to read the rest of the trilogy. So there's my 4 stars. So that is it for now. Happy reading, and I will check in with you guys later.